Okay, I hope everybody is ready. Welcome to Coyotiv School of Software Engineering Q&A webinar again. This is the first webinar we're going to be doing in a series of other webinars where we talk about Coyotiv, what it means, what you expect, what you should expect out of it, and what we expect to give you, to make you at the end of the course. I'm Arman Amjalar, and we're going to start with a little bit of an intro to myself and then Coyotiv. And I'm going to very briefly talk about what we're going to do during the course. And at the very end, I'm going to have time for your questions. So in the meeting, you're going to see we have a Q&A section, and I'll be looking forward to your questions there. Feel free to ask any questions there that comes to your mind during the talk about Coyotiv. And you can also vote on other questions. So we're going to be hopefully able to answer all of them. And we're going to finish in time in 30 minutes. So this is going to be a very brief intro. All right. So I am Arman Amjalar, and I live in Berlin for 5 years now. I'm the founder and lead instructor at Coyotiv. And I'm pretty much active in the industry, in open source communities, in conferences. I do public speaking workshops. I do workshops about cloud infrastructure, and I teach people software engineering. I've worked as a software engineer and a manager for years in the industry. And for the past 10 years, I've been building teams for several different companies, for my own companies, for the companies that I've worked for. And the biggest important aspect of team development for me is a team culture of learning, a culture of curiosity. And that's what we're bringing to Coyotiv. I have been working as a career coach and a mentor for several years now for individuals who want to move forward in their careers, who want to get to the next step, basically. I'm also a lecturer and a trainer. I have taught at universities and nonprofits such as Women Tech Makers Berlin. In fact, the core curriculum of Coyotiv is something we designed for Women Tech Makers Berlin, and we just kept adding on top until we believe we achieved a perfect balance of software engineering and programming and modern practices. I'm very passionate about open source, so feel free to check out my GitHub profile. You can find me with my name on pretty much everywhere, on the internet, on GitHub, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. I have about 100 open source projects. About 10 of them are open source libraries or frameworks that you can also find online. So I'm very much into that community as well. And I'm an international speaker, which means I'm going around in conferences, talking about stuff, talking about my experiences and trying to help people get on board with certain topics like cloud infrastructure, microservices, or software design or front-end engineering. That's enough about me. So you are all here today for Coyotiv. What is Coyotiv and what does Coyotiv do? What we did at Coyotiv is to create a new generation of online education for software engineering. We try to make sure we don't call it a boot camp, because Coyotiv is not a boot camp. Coyotiv is a school of software engineering. We believe the universities are great, but they're not doing a good job at giving the students enough material to start their careers as software engineers. That's why we designed Coyotiv as the next generation education, where we teach you not only the basics, but the best fundamentals that you can have for web application development. So we expect to make you a first-class software engineer from scratch without any technical background. So we just start our journey. The next chapter will be our first chapter at Coyotiv with our first ever students. And we aim to revolutionize education in software engineering. We have a long history of trainings starting from 2011, when we first did our own boot camps, and then moving on with Women Tech Makers Berlin, and now into Coyotiv as well. So expect a lot of content, both in software engineering and what you would find elsewhere as in a boot camp to make you a first-class software engineer in 2020. And how do we do that? What we do is we give you a practical engineering training. Now, there are aspects to software engineering or programming that are more related with the mathematical, academical side of things. And I'm going to be talking about them in a couple of minutes with our curriculum. But most of it is craftspersonship. So what you need is an approach where you learn with a master, alongside a master, from their trade and from how they do their own work. So we're teaching you the fundamental approach and the fundamental thinking behind software engineering and web application development. And that enables you to learn any technology you want. And that enables you to understand any concept you see, because we teach you how to learn. And we help you with your own project. So there are two aspects to this. First, you receive a training on selected software engineering topics, on web engineering, web development. But the most important part is you're working on your own project, your own dream project. So we expect all of you, when you join Coyotiv, to have a dream project in mind. It doesn't have to be something big. It can be anything you wanted to do, anything you wanted to improve. And we're going to ask you to start working on it on day one. And for the course of 9 weeks, you're going to be working on your own project, and you're going to be building it from scratch, and we're going to help you do that. All the lectures are designed in a linear fashion where with each lecture every day, you put a brick in your project and you grow it. We believe this is going to give you the best learning experience, and you're going to have all the motivation you need not only start web application, but also to kickstart your dreams. All right, here is a brief list of the topics that are included in our curriculum. As some of you would know from Women Tech Makers Berlin, because those lectures are online, what we do is we start with object-oriented programming. On day one, you start by learning how objects work in actual programs, and you start by designing your own program. Then we talk about other academical aspects of software engineering, such as UML diagrams or event-driven architectures or design patterns. And we move on to the front end with Vue.js, and we look at single-page applications. In the course, we're going to be working with Vue.js, and we're going to be doing a full-stack application with Vue.js. However, all the skills you'll learn with Vue will be transferable to React as well. So if you graduate and go on in your own careers, you can switch to React without any problems. Obviously, you'll have to relearn some of the concepts in React, but you'll get the fundamentals of front-end programming and component-based architecture with Vue. And we're going to teach you HTML and maintainable CSS3, which is a very difficult skill to come by these days. We're going to be doing our backend in Node.js. So you're going to learn the modern best practices of Node.js web engineering with REST APIs, with a layered architecture, with authentication. You're going to learn how to talk to external APIs. We're going to be using MongoDB as our database of choice. So you're going to learn how to interact with MongoDB and advanced topics like aggregation so that you can do queries, business queries for your own project. And we're going to be looking into very briefly into lean product development. As you're going to be doing your own projects, we're going to support you with a project structure and a way to approach application development and project development. So you're going to be a small team of one, and you're going to apply the best practices of project management as well to your own projects. We're going to then look into continuous integration and continuous deployment, especially with Docker. So by the end of 9 weeks, you're going to have an application that is running in production, fully containerized with Docker. and you're going to be able to deploy it to any cloud infrastructure of your choice, be it Google Cloud or Amazon. So what does a typical day at Coyotiv look like? We start the day at around 9 a.m. and all of these hours are Berlin summertime, so Central European summertime. We're going to have 2 hours of daily lectures and on the topics that I talked about previously. And after that, you're going to have an hour of self-study, whether you like to work on your own or work with a teaching assistant. It will depend on how you want to progress. And then we're going to have a break for an hour. Coming back, you're going to have another 2 hours of study jam, which is going to be a little bit more interactive with our teaching assistants directing the flow of the practice. Obviously, you're going to have your self-study time as well. Since all of this is online, you may choose to participate or not, and you can mute the conversation or not. But in the study jam, we will try to make sure your questions are heard, and you can also think of it as an office hour, so people can learn from each other's experiences. On certain days, we're going to have additional lectures and workshops, and I'm going to talk about them in a little bit. And we close the end again with another 2 hours of self-study. So this is an intense course. This is the first thing that you should set for your expectations. It's a very intense course, and you will need to work really, really hard in order to make the most out of this program. All right, we're going to have, as I said, a couple of additional trainings, and I have listed a couple of workshops that we're going to do, and these are not an exhaustive list by any means. We're going to be talking about career building. We're going to be talking about your CVs and how to build a CV. We're going to talk about interview skills and do a couple of mock interviews. We're going to talk about public speaking, because this is an all-around course, and we want you to be a great software engineer. And public speaking is one of it. And then we're going to have one-on-one mentorship sessions. I'm going to be doing them with all of our students. Each of you will receive 4 30-minute time slots throughout the course. You can schedule them whenever you want, and we can talk about whatever you want. And those will be your personal time with me as a mentor, so that we can further look into your career and your choices. All right. So the last bit of information that you might need is pricing. Coyotiv School of Software Engineering is a 9-week course that currently runs for 5,000 euros. This is a little bit of a competitive price when you compare it to other Berlin boot camps, because we're doing this Coyotiv program for the first time, and we want to make an impact. We want to make sure we give the best education we can to a select group of people, and we want to be very competitive with our pricing for that. So expect this price to go up in the iterations that we do afterwards. You can pay this upfront before you start the course, or you can pay it in 2 installments. So we have a very limited set of financing options for you for now. And we're working on other financing options for the future, whether it's state-backed financing especially for Berlin, where the state pays your tuition fee, or other financing options such as loans. And we're going to be talking about them in the near future. All right, this is very briefly what Coyotiv is, and we have about 15 minutes for your questions. If you have any questions, we're going to be looking into them. I hope you already know our website. It's coyotiv.com, and we have a Slack group there. Instead of a newsletter, we believe that we should start a community of sharing, of knowledge sharing, and we don't like to spam people. We like announcements, yes, but we want to give people a little bit more. That's why we start the Slack group. So feel free to sign up for our Slack group, and you can also keep in touch with us over Twitter as well. We're trying to be active on every front. So whether it's email or Slack or Twitter, you will hopefully find us there. All right, thank you for listening to this introduction about Coyotiv. And now, if I can manage, I'm going to be looking into the Q&A. And I'm not very good at Zoom. So okay, I now see there is one question. And I'm trying to reach that. Okay, so it would be great if I can also maybe see the questions on the on our webinar chat as well. I think the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Barish, do I need to have any technical background for this bootcamp or this School of Software Engineering? And the answer is no. What we do is we train you from scratch. We're going to give you a couple of introduction materials. If you have absolutely zero technical background, we're going to give you a couple of introduction tutorials which you can complete on your own before you start the bootcamp. But even if you don't do them, what we do is we start with the very basics of an understanding of programming, why we do programming, and how we get into it, including our setup of your computers and all the required materials that you need to have installed in your computer. So there's no requirement for a technical background. Obviously, it's going to help you if you have one, and you're going to advance much quicker and without, frustration maybe. But all of our boot camps so far with Women Take Makers Berlin as well was for people who are very new to programming, who don't know any programming at all. And quite a couple of them are currently working as software engineers in their companies. So that definitely works out. You don't really need a technical background to start or to become a software engineer. This is a proper software engineering education. That's why we're not calling it a boot camp. I still couldn't get to the Q&A section. There's another question that I could see. Now I can see it. Perfect. Do you work with or planning to work with some partner companies that could offer us internship or junior positions? We currently do work with partner companies, and some of them offer internships, some of them offer jobs. However, this is still a network that we're building out. And we thought about what we could do in this case. And hopefully we're going to have a very wide network of companies interested in hiring our graduates. And obviously we're going to be banging on their doors like, hey, we have a new school here and we have amazing people. And since you're working on your own projects, and hopefully they're going to be open source, at least some parts of them, you're going to be able to show them their portfolio, your portfolio, and we're going to be banging on their doors saying like, hey, these are our students and here's the work that they did in this program. So would you like to work with them? And we're going to help you with referrals, and we're going to help you with letters as well, recommendation letters as well. I hope that answered your question. Another one was, okay, hi, that was very clarifying. Thank you for introduction. Thank you, Paloma. I have a question towards accessibility. Is the WCGA integrated into the program? That's a very good question. And the answer is no. But I know we can work on it with you. And I would be looking very much forward to that, if that answers your question. Okay, another one is, as a student, will I have somebody who I can ask my questions even during the self-study times? And the answer is yes. On the webpage, you can see we already have 3 teaching assistants, myself included. We're 4. We're a crew of 4 that will help you out during your studies. So think of it as someone who's already there for you, who's always there for you whenever you need something. And we're going to be working on Slack and Zoom mostly. Whenever you need any help, we're going to be there for you via screen share, via text, via voice chat, via video chat, however you like to do it. We're going to offer you help, especially with your projects when you run into a trouble like, why is this not working? I saw this in the lecture, it was working, it's not working right now. And we're going to be helping you out with all the details you need to know and all the pitfalls you might fall into so that you get the best out of this program. So the self-study times are therefore for you to study. And if you'd like to ask a question, there's always going to be a teaching assistant there for you. I hope that was a good answer. Okay, perfect. Another one is, we heard about your background and experience. Can you tell us more about teaching assistants? What background do they have? That's another great question. So we have Ellie, Steve, and Miri as teaching assistants in the course. And all of them are, at least for a year, teaching assistants with Women Tech Makers Berlin JavaScript Crash Course. And we've worked with them, especially with Miri, for a very long time together, both on our trainings, our educations, and also in professional life. We're working together for the same company. Miri is a senior iOS engineer, architect, team lead, and also a full stack engineer and an engineering manager nowadays. And she's going to be helping us with our coursework. Ellie is another teacher slash engineer. She is an engineer in also working in testing automation. So she is building the infrastructure for a very important, and I'm not sure if I should name it, you can find her on LinkedIn, for a very important testing company. And she's going to be, she was the student of the first JavaScript crash course with Women Tech Makers Berlin. So an amazing experience there as well. And she's helping out with our students in this course. And finally, we have Steve, who is a software engineer for about 30 years now, primarily in more traditional languages like C and C++. And he was also a teaching assistant in the last Women Tech Makers Berlin JavaScript crash course. And we're also super happy to have him on board as well. So I know what other boot camps do. They give you fresh graduates as teaching assistants. And while that's great, that's not the best option if you want to learn fast and learn from experience. So what we do there is we make sure we pair you with a teaching assistant that knows what they're doing. All right. Another one is about application steps. All right. So the process is you apply on our webpage and you fill the form, and we ask you to book a call with me especially during your application or before your application. So we try to see if this is the right choice for you, if Coyotiv is the right choice for you, because it's a significant investment from your side. And then we're gonna have another call of about 30 minutes. A lot of the companies call it an interview. I like to call it an introduction, where we learn more about your motivations and whether you will be successful in the course from our perspective. And we're going to send you out a couple of pre-training material that you need to finish. And then hopefully we're going to let you know whether you were admitted to the program or not in a timely fashion. Usually an application should be resolved in about a week, in about a week's time. And there's not really much to do other than showing us and yourself that you really want to work as a software engineer and you really want to be successful, and you can dedicate your time and effort in doing so. All right, I guess we are over time a little bit, and there are no other questions. So I'm going to be closing the meeting here. Thank you for joining our first ever webinar for Coyotiv School of Software Engineering. I hope you liked it. I hope I was able to paint a picture of what it means to be a member of Coyotiv family. And I hope to see you in our School of Software Engineering. Have fun and have a nice weekend.